must do something about that. And he insisted that we started what we call a Housing Village Improvement Program, a model program in which we utilize local contractors, and we move a building from where it was to where it ought to be, utilizing sweat equity. So the local contractors, together with sweat equity of the occupants of the house, build the homes costing in a solid concrete building with running water, toilet, and bath, $120,000. 120. So successful was that program that it was awarded in 2018 by the IDB for Innovation and Excellence, the first prize for that year in 2018. A very successful program that was spread throughout St. Joseph, Sandy Grande, Marabella, and throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago based on social survey. As the Minister with responsibility for housing and urban development, I am pleased with the Ministry's contribution to the national development through the state's housing program, because it touches every facet of human development. Every day, we are on the job. We are improving the lives of our citizens through our policies, our strategies, our programs, and initiatives. Nevertheless, we recognize that in order to increase the housing stock, we must start engineering or engaging our stakeholders, utilizing strategies which are innovative and thinking out of the box. We have been developing and implementing solutions that are not only cost-effective, but will also produce socioeconomic outcomes that promote sustainability. We hold the premise that investment in our housing programs and other related infrastructure and services is an investment in our people. We recognize that the backward and forward linkages triggered through additional investment in building materials, hardware supplies, transport, marketing, small and medium-sized service providers, all have a multiplier effect on the national economy which benefits all our stakeholders. This administration made a commitment on coming into office to complete all of the housing projects that were left behind or those that were stalled, while initiating new ones in order to expand the supply of affordable, quality homes for those who need them most, and we continue to do just that, ladies and gentlemen. We also said that we would distribute these housing units as soon as they are available, and so as they become available. I think we do so because we have learned our lesson. We've learned our lesson that once a house is constructed, once a house is completed, and if you have 180,000 waiting on the database, there is no reason for empty houses to be there. And so we have a policy that as soon as houses are completed, we will allocate them to people throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. And I can tell you, as Minister of Housing and Urban Development, my intention is to distribute every single house that's available to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago in 2020. And I make no measure about it. Over the last 4 years, we have provided an enabling environment to encourage active engagement and participation of private sector investors, developers, and contractors. So far, our initiatives have been able to harness excess private sector investment in the marketplace. These funds are used to assist with the construction of public housing, and this helps to stimulate the local economy and provides a guaranteed return on investment through cash and land incentive for small and medium developers and contractors. Another key measure, and one of the main reasons why we're here this evening, is the engagement of small and medium-sized contractors in the affordable housing program. In his budget speech presentation for fiscal 2020, the Honorable Minister of Finance indicated that with creeping upward movement, it now costs the government almost $1 million to build an HDC house, and the population expects to be given this house for $500,000 or less. To compound the problem, many of the applicants for housing simply cannot qualify to purchase an HDC house because they just do not have the means. He acknowledged at present spare capacity exists in the construction sector. The government therefore proposes the introduction of a new housing construction program designed to further stimulate economic activities and create jobs while satisfying some of demand for affordable housing. This latest initiative will allow small and medium-sized contractors to build between 5 to 10 basic, no-frills, 3-bedroom houses at a fixed price of approximately $500,000 per unit. unserviced lots, utilizing designs provided by the Housing Development Corporation. This initiative will have a positive impact on the construction sector, as many more small contractors can now participate in the government's housing program. This is also expected to boost employment levels for skilled and semi-skilled construction workers. Service lots will be made available for this initiative, either through infill sites, vacant lots in existing housing developments, or in available government land developments. The price point of these units of $500,000 and less would enable a low-income segment of the population to qualify for either a 2% mortgage interest or rental accommodation. The HDC will be responsible for providing all required infrastructure for the construction of the houses, and payment terms will facilitate the cash flow needed of small businesses. The increased use of small and medium-sized contractors will encourage competitive pricing and could be a catalyst for facilitating the distribution of the economic pie. Small businesses would have the opportunity to expand and assist their staff to better support their families and, by extension, develop their communities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what affordable housing is all about, providing accessible housing solutions for those who genuinely need it. Today, we are here to begin the process related to this new initiative by giving potential participants in the program an insight into the program and the expectations of government and, by extension, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Working in tandem with you small private contractors and development mean we can address the current shortage of affordable housing and will be able to assist many more families to attain safe, decent, and affordable shelter options. It also means that through this initiative, spare capacity in the construction sector can be mobilized, economic activities will be stimulated, and jobs will be created. I wish to commend the Honorable Minister of Finance for recognizing the funding challenges faced by the housing construction program and acted decisively to increase the funding and momentum of the housing construction program. He has successfully piloted the Government Saving Bonds Amendment Bill 2019. This bill was introduced to increase funding into the housing program through bond flotation. These bonds are issued to be applied solely for the purpose of enabling individuals to purchase HDC houses. There is no limit on the value of the houses that can be purchased utilizing HDC housing bonds. These bonds can also be used as a down payment or a substantial payment. In the initial stages, proceeds of this $1 billion from the proposed housing bonds are to be provided to the HDC to facilitate housing construction so that some of the existing demand of housing can be met. We at the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development and the HDC welcome this projected infusion of funding into the housing program. HDC would have the ability to expand its construction program and pay its contractors in a timely manner. You know, I must commend the contractors currently in the program for producing output even when they have to wait for the payment. But we will address that, and we are addressing that. Ladies and gentlemen, this government has recognized that there are citizens who are willing to construct their own homes, but they are being constrained by the lack of access to funds to facilitate land acquisition and construction. So in the budget presentation of 2020, the Minister of Finance has stated that government-guaranteed loans, low-interest loans, will be provided up to the value of $300,000 to eligible applicants seeking to build their own homes. This initiative will be operational later on this year. The ministry, and by extension this administration, are intent on ensuring that more families can benefit from the affordable housing programs and the solutions we provide now and in the future. It is in your interest to do your part in ensuring that as stakeholders, you take full advantage of this opportunity provided by the government and in particular the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Let me assure you that the ministry and its agencies will continue to pursue these and other opportunities to provide and make housing solutions more accessible and affordable to deserving citizens, particularly those in the low to low middle income group. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I wish to thank you all very much for attending this evening to learn about this latest program. This government initiative will go a long way in stimulating activities in this economy, as we address in particular the needs of small and medium contractors in Trinidad and Tobago. I take this opportunity to wish each and every one of you indeed a happy new year as we try to bring some hope and aspirations to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. The government cannot do it alone. The government could never do anything alone. The government depends on the people. In the housing sector, if you look at the database right now, over 180,000 people. Nowhere in the world can a government satisfy that demand for housing. Could never satisfy 180,000 people. Remember that as fast as people come off that database, the younger ones get on the database. So it's a never-ending story. And so we rely to a great extent on the private sector to come forward and support us. And we hope that this initiative, and I can say from the overwhelming crowd that I have seen, I have no doubt that we have the support of the private sector. This time, however, it is for the small and medium contractors to play a part. Ladies and gentlemen, may God continue to bless us all and bless our nation. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I do hope that after his speech, we all are now a little bit more informed of some of the activities taking place in the housing sector. So with that tone being set by the Honorable Minister, and against that backdrop, I now invite Mr. Brent Lyons, the Managing Director of the HDC, to conduct a detailed presentation which will provide more information on the small and medium contractors housing initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, could we warmly welcome Mr. Brent Lyons.
Thank you, DK. Good evening, all. I don't think I need to do a presentation after the minister's opening remarks. I think he clearly outlined the program and what we have. Notwithstanding, I have a presentation, and I'm sure you all are here to hear about it and to hear how the program runs. So without further ado, let's begin. This is the launch of the Small and Medium Contractors Housing Initiative. But let's continue to put something in perspective. The minister spoke about it a while ago with respect to the database. We have on the database at the moment 186,500 persons who have applied for government-assisted housing. Now that's a lot of people. We have disaggregated the data, and what the data is saying is exactly what the minister said. 82%, 82.3% actually, 150,000 persons, based on information that they have provided with their applications, earn between $0 to $9,000 per month. And this is either as a single person or a joint family income. Now, put that in perspective. That is the majority of persons on the database who have said, we'd like to get assistance with government housing. This puts it in perspective the mammoth task that faces us as an organization and us as a country. We have said, we have done some calculations. And factoring in, you may have a loan or hire purchase and so on. Persons in the category of $0 to $9,000 can access a mortgage of up to maybe $650,000. If you don't have any loans and so on, you could probably get a little more. But we are saying we're using $650,000 for persons in that category. That's the upper limit of which they can afford. The monthly mortgage payments run between $2,500 to $3,000. This is the category of applicants on the database that we really have to focus on. Now, whilst the agency has been doing some of this, the agency has not been doing enough of it. And this is what this program is all about. To get back to this, to be able to treat with that level. We have developed what we call a housing pyramid, and the minister spoke about it. At the top of the pyramid, we put that as persons who earn in the category between, let's say, over $25,000. And we are saying These are individuals who we believe can go on the open market and access housing. They don't necessarily need government assistance. We have the second category as the middle of the pyramid, where we call them middle income earners. And these are persons we think maybe in about 12,000 to 25,000. They require some assistance. They don't necessarily require an HDC house per se. They can probably go on the open market, but they would probably require assistance through subsidized mortgages as provided by the TTMF and so on. At the lowest level of the pyramid, we have middle income and low income earners. These are the people who require help. These are the people, this is the cashier, the cook at a popular fast food outlet, the cleaner, who ordinarily will not be able to afford housing on the open market or be able to afford a house at all. These are the people that we are targeting. These are the people that we are targeting for with this program and other programs announced by the minister. So we are really hoping that with the launch of this program, we can get enough participation, enough persons on board, get enough funding to be able to treat with this. We can't do it all, but this is certainly a step in the right direction and an attempt to continue to treat with that 153,000 people who are in that category. This is what this program is about. The minister spoke about this. This is in the 2020 budget presentation. Minister of Finance spoke about the launch of this program. This is what we are doing here today, is bringing that into reality. This is what this program is about. Okay, what is the Small and Medium Contractors Housing Initiative, the SMC as we are calling it? This is a program, as the minister spoke about, where we are aimed at engaging experienced small and medium contractors to construct basic houses, not exceeding 500,000, not exceeding 500,000, to assist with the current housing demand. The primary objectives are obvious: to address the current demand for affordable housing, to create jobs in the construction sector, as the minister spoke about, and to generate economic activity. What are some of the additional features of this initiative? Well, the housing units will be constructed, again, as the minister said, on vacant lands in HDC's communities, as well as on available state lands. And we have identified a number of sites where we will be putting these houses. They will also be constructed using drawings and designs and specifications provided by the HDC. So for instance, one of the things that you will get in your, when it comes to the point of actually constructing the houses, would be what we call for-construction drawings. So you'll have all the drawings that you'll be required to use in the construction of the house. And of course, we are attempting to get the housing prices between 250,000 to 500,000. Yes, we've expanded it a little bit. Minister of Finance spoke about 500,000. Minister Dillon spoke about 500,000. We feel that we have an obligation and an opportunity to take the price down even further, to take it down as far as we can. And we are projecting and proposing between 250,000 to 500,000. And in the next couple of slides, you'll see how we think we could get to that. Okay. In terms of the locations, we are all over Trinidad. We're in East-West Trinidad, we're in Central Trinidad, and we're in South Trinidad. We are targeting the entire country. We're not in Tobago just yet. The next two slides will show the prototypes that we are proposing. We are proposing 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, no frills houses. This 3-bedroom house is just under 1,000 square feet, and it comes with 2 toilets and bath. And we are saying that you can get this constructed on the ground for $500,000 or less. We are saying the 2-bedroom house, just under 600 square feet, we are attempting to get that close to $250,000. That is what we're projecting. Okay. How do you access the program? There are four steps or 4 stages. The first stage would be the application process, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The second stage, you'll be required to pre-qualify. Very simple pre-qualification exercise. The third stage is a procurement stage. Of course, you have to, in an effort to be transparent and fair to the process and to the people and to comply with legislation and so on, you have to have a procurement process inside of here. Being successful in that process, there'll be the selection and the award of contract. The application process. The first step is to collect an application form. To do so, however, you have to come to the HDC and pay $500 at either our Port of Spain office or San Fernando office, pay your $500 and collect an application form. After making payment, what you'll be required to do is to compile the documentation, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and complete the application form and show proof of, where applicable, company registration document, a valid compliance certificate issued by the Board of Inland Revenue, a valid compliance certificate issued by the National Insurance Board, a valid VAT clearance certificate, and some measure of financial capacity. With this, you'll be required to go to your financial institution, a bank or a credit union, and bring a letter, or include a letter in your application, indicating your level of financial ability. There are ranges, so don't be too concerned or worried. And this is where we'll pick you up in the pre-qualification stage of the process. In this stage, what we are going to do is assess your how best you fulfill the statutory requirements, BIR, NIS, VAT if it's applicable. You'll be zoned by geographic region based on where your company's address is. Because what we are attempting to do is have you function in the areas in which you operate now, or where you live. All right? Also to help reduce the competition and provide a fair enough platform for all participants. The financial capacity will be categorized in these general categories. We have less than 500,000, between 500,000 and a million to 2.5 million, 2.5 to 5, 5 to 10. That's the general categories that we'll be looking at. The procurement process. It's no secret what the price of the house is. We'll be talking about it all evening. Between 250 to 500,000. So what we are saying in the procurement process, HDC will provide what we call the indicative pricing. We're not hiding it. It's not a secret. But why we are doing this, we don't want applicants to come in too low or too high. We know the range. This is the range that we're working with. Okay. Good. The second bullet there is important. We are saying all pre-qualified proponents will have an opportunity to participate in the procurement process. Let me say that again. All pre-qualified proponents will have an opportunity to participate in the procurement process. Some of the other things you'll be required to do in the procurement process will be responses to standard criteria. So for instance, some technical issues that you'll be required to satisfy and to provide. That will be part of the procurement process. No, go ahead. Selection and award. Right. Having satisfied the pre-qualification and procurement requirements, contractors will be selected. And contractors will be awarded a contract based on the petty form of contract. We're trying to keep this as simple as possible, as to remove the complication out of the construction process. I'm sure there's several contractors, including some who are in here, who have dealt with us and other state organizations and agencies generally, who have been subject to the FIDIC form of contract, which is fairly complex and somewhat onerous. We are saying we will be doing the petty form of contract to make it very easy, very simple for you to participate and to operate. What will be the steps after selection and award? Insurances. The HDC will be responsible for public liability insurance on the sites on which you will be building. You will not be required to have public liability insurance for these projects on the sites, on the HDC sites. The HDC will provide umbrella cover for you. That will assist in terms of the cost to you. The contractor, however, will be responsible for workmen's compensation and any other company-related insurances that they may have. So they may take out insurance to protect their assets and so on. That will be your responsibility. The need to have advance and performance bonds currently is a significant financial challenge for contractors generally, and more so for small contractors. It is a necessary insurance, but it is expensive. The HDC is taking on this liability for this program on the sites that we're having. So you will not be required to provide any advance or performance bond for this project. I mean, I think that deserves a round of applause. This will save you thousands of dollars, and make it much easier for you to get the program going. Approvals. This is another onerous aspect of the construction, and construction in general. The HDC is saying the HDC will be responsible for all approvals required from statutory boards and regional corporations. Let me say that again. The HDC will be responsible, thank you. That's what we're talking about. You may not clap for this one. Security for the site is your responsibility. However, in your bid form, there will be a small component that you can include for that. All right? We don't necessarily expect you to hire an expensive security company. One, for instance, if they want to hold the site and put up some security monitoring devices and so on. What we have also done, and I hope you applaud for this, we've also been working closely with the TTPS, who have given a commitment to have frequent patrols in the areas where construction is ongoing, where they think you may be at risk somewhat. I think you can clap for that. Quality control. You're not getting away. We don't want shoddy work. We don't want a substandard product. We want a high quality, high grade product. And if you've been following HDC for the last 2 or 3 years, you would notice a significant difference in the quality of the product being produced. That didn't happen by accident. That didn't happen overnight. It is the deliberate work and implementation of what we call the 22-point quality management program. And what this says really is that at every stage of the construction process, you are required to get some sign-off and approval through an HDC official. Let me share an example. There are 3 townhouse units in a place called Exchange in Hoover. They are what I describe to be back to front. All the other houses are facing this way. These 3 houses are facing this way. That was because somebody set those houses out incorrectly. And that was because somebody did not correct it. In this program, the first stage of the quality control is what we call setting out.
Nothing.
When you set out that house, or where you're going to put the house, you are not allowed to move forward until our surveyor comes and checks and verifies and certifies, signs off that you've put it in the right place, in the right orientation. This is just one part of it. There are 21 other steps, and you have to go through each one. Technology. Another aspect of the quality control, when you pour your foundation, you will be required to have us come on site to verify that it was done and done properly. All right? And like I said, 20 other steps. Most importantly, you want to find out about the payment process. Okay. We will be paying based on milestones. Your first milestone is completion of the foundation. You complete the foundation, we pay you 20% of the contract price. We then have the walls, the electrical, plumbing, roofing, windows and doors, finishes. It will be on that basis at which you will be paid. You probably want to know when you will be paid. The program is being funded through the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance has given the commitment that the funding will be available. We are saying that you will be paid in no more than 28 days after having completed or submitted your certificate for payment. That is significantly less than what applies now, which is 56 days, and in some cases with the HDC, 5.6 months or more. Yes? Okay, we hope in this program that is a thing of the past. Retention release. On completion and handover of the house, you will be paid, well, let me say, the retention release is 5% over a 3-month period. The first payment of 2.5% will be paid on completion and handover of the housing unit. The second 2.5% will be paid 3 months after the handover. And I think in the context of what happens now, for instance, retention release is 10% to start with, and it's payable after a year. So this has been reduced significantly to 3 months. I think that deserves a win. Important dates for it. Another important date. The closing date for submission is February 14th. February 14th. The closing time is 3:30 p.m. There is a clock we have over the box. Come before. Please. Do we we have any representative from the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association? I know they were invited. Okay, I'm sorry that they're not here. But this is a live event. I'm putting the Manufacturers Association on notice. On behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the HDC will be approaching you and your members for special pricing for materials for this program. We're seeing special pricing on lumber, steel, roofing material, blocks, cement, and any other locally produced component that is used in the housing construction process. I'm going to stress locally produced content. We want to push that in a big way. Okay, so let's summarize. The program is launched. It is open to nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. We are stressing that, nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. It is open to small and medium-sized contractors. We are going to be constructing housing units not to exceed 500,000. The HDC will provide designs and specifications. The HDC will finalize all statutory approvals, and the housing units are to be constructed at various sites across the country. Thank you for allowing me to bring this to you. What I will do now, I'll open the floor for questions. I think there's a couple of microphones.
Okay, so good evening again, everyone. We have microphones on this side, one on that side. So if you could line up, please, and try to pose your question in under 30 seconds, so that way it would allow as many people to pose questions as possible. We also have multiple venues happening at the same time, multiple locations, so they will also be allowed to pose their questions. So we'll be compiling their questions downstairs and on the second floors, so that way they will be part of the conversation also. So again, the mics are there. Please don't all rush at once, but please we could begin with the questions. I'm sure you all will have many for the MD.
Good evening, everyone. Just two very quick questions. The first one being, you said there's a 22 QA/QC process, each of which must be vetted by an HDC representative. So the question is, for example, after setting out, how long does it take for the HDC representative to come to okay the work before continuing?
If you advise us that you started out tomorrow, we come with you tomorrow or the day after, within 24 hours.
Okay. And the second question, I'm not sure if I missed it. It's a petty form of contract, right? So is there any move fee in the beginning? Is there any mobilization in the beginning?
No, there's no mobilization to be paid.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. You identified 4 steps in the process: application, pre-qualification, procurement, selection, and award. Could you give us a better sense in terms of timeline after the application, the other 3 phases, please? Thank you.
We would like this program to get going no later than the last week in February. We are working through Carnival.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Lyons, just some clarification. Some contractors here are skill-specific or service-specific. It seems to me that this initiative is more geared towards general contractors. So if you are a skill-specific contractor, say electrician, plumber, how do you go about engaging to access this initiative?
You have two options or 2 opportunities, I will say. You do have some time if you can go register a business in a short space of time. Failing that, there's so many contractors who are expressing interest in this program. You can partner with them in some way to provide the services. As a matter of fact, you may be able to provide a service to multiple contractors at the same time.
Pleasant good evening. All protocols recognized. 3 quick questions. Firstly, I noticed you put the Manufacturers Association on notice. Is it that the HDC would be supplying the material? Is it a labor only for the contractors? Or are we doing labor and material for the service that you asked?
Right.
You speak about.
So we are proposing material only, and it's a virtual stock.
Right.
We are not asking anybody to hold stock. We are saying, if you partner with us, when the contractor is awarded a contract, for instance, and he has to go purchase material, the agency will provide you with a letter to take to whoever the supplier is who is within the program, saying that this is a contractor under our program, please allow him to purchase at the price, the reduced negotiated price.
And last question. It's concerning that financial status of most of the contractors. The program is geared towards small and medium contractors, and most time it becomes a chicken and egg situation where the contractor do not have that financial backing. Can you elaborate on what you all would be looking for in terms of the financial situation of the small or medium contractor? Thank you very much.
We are hoping that you will be able to go to your financial institution of choice, and based on assets that you may have, they will be able to indicate to you how much you can actually carry, whether it's 100,000, 200,000, up to 500,000, or 2.5 million, or $5 million. We are hoping that when you go to a financial institution and present your circumstance, including assets, that they will be able to tell you what they can work with for you. That's what we will be looking for, is what information your financial institution is providing to us through you as to your ability to carry some measure of financial obligation.
So 1 second. So we have this question that came in from one of the other floors. How can we address the security of the site with gangsters and extortion? Reading it as received.
So firstly, let's talk about the application and pre-qualification process. You have to have a registered business. You have to demonstrate some ability, some financial ability. You have to demonstrate some experience in construction. That we think will eliminate a number of people. In addition, like I mentioned earlier, we have been partnering with the TTPS. They have identified a number of issues for us that we will be taking a look at. They have also committed to providing regular visits and patrols in areas where they think there might be issues with potential crime. We've actually used that process very successfully on a couple of sites at HDC. One was done in Deep South, and the other one was up in the Northeast.
Good evening. 2 quicker questions. Firstly, with respect to the payment model that's going to be used, with all due deference to what you said, will the contractors be able to determine HDC's financing? What I mean for that is, will we be able to ascertain whether HDC has allocated the money to actually pay the contractors for the work? All right?
I like that.
And the other question, with respect to executing your petty forma contract, there may be some concerns with what the content of that contract is, like, for example, how various items are going to be dispositioned.
will the contractors be given an opportunity to view the contract and raise any objections to it before execution of a contract?
Let me answer your second question first. The short answer is yes. The first question with respect to the financing. This is a program identified by the Minister of Finance where funding is going to be provided by the Ministry of Finance. This is not going to be mixed with any other HDC funds and so on. This is going to be very specific to this program.
Pleasant.
Good afternoon. How do we deal with members of the TTPS who themselves would want to take funding from it?
That response will come from the Commissioner of Police.
Pleasant. One question. Based on the initiative, right, it says for small contractors, and still, we have to go to the banks to secure loans to start the project. It would have been more efficient or more applicable for small contractors if you all were seen about all the materials and as a labor-only contract. This poses a challenge for most of the contractors where finance is concerned. Right? Because you have other situations, it may not be the HDC and this program per se, where we had to do the same thing. And because of the fact the payment plan is never as stated, we just end up in the problem. The contractor always in the problem. Could answer that for me, please?
Okay. We have had, like the contractors, bad experiences also. Many people we have given advance payments to, and we've bounced them up on a flight to Miami with a new car. And the project can't start. And it's about delays and issues why it can't start. I've heard of one this morning where one of the contractors took the advance and gave it to a gangster, and then came and asked for more money to pay the real workers. Whilst we hear you, we're saying we also want to build some capacity. We encourage you to talk with the banks. They'll be willing. Talk to the credit unions. They'll be willing. There's a commitment that we will pay on completion of your first phase. If they can advance that to you, that'd be a small amount. Okay, so on a $500,000 house, the first phase, 20%, that's $100,000. All right? You could probably get that on a character loan at the credit unions. Yeah?
So just now, 1 second,
to
please.
all. Question. This initiative is about small contractors, small and medium contractors. What about a small contractor cannot access a valid VAT clearance certificate?
So let's just talk about the statutory requirements. NIS, you apply, you pay for workers that you have, and you're required to pay by law. And on the basis of your payment, a certificate will be issued to you. BIR, the Board of Inland Revenue Tax Clearance. This is to prove that you've paid your taxes. You need to do that to get a certificate. Value-added tax. There's a threshold above which, if you are earning income above that, you have by law to go and register. So we will be guided by that, and I will suggest to you that you do the same. Well, if you're below the threshold, you're not required to provide it.
Okay, so the other question from the floor is there a minimum or maximum number of houses that will be given to a contractor?
Okay. In the minister's introductory remarks, he mentioned, as well as the Minister of Finance, indicated that the contracts will be awarded in batches of 5 to 10. Now, so let's put some numbers into some perspective. We are targeting initially with this program 1,500 houses. If you divide that by 10, how much do you get? 150? If you divide it by 5, 300? We are saying we are leaving that somewhat open to see the number of pre-qualified contractors we get. We may adjust that number. It may go down. We may very well say 1 house. We may say 5 houses, 6 houses, 3 houses. When we see what the pre-qualification exercise yields, we will determine how we'll put that mix together.
Good evening, all. Mr. Lyons, you have established a ceiling price of $500,000. Is that a VAT exclusive price or is that VAT inclusive? The second question is, you have established zones and you said contractors are going to be zoned. If you have an oversubscription of contractors in any specific zone, would contractors then be reassigned to a zone outside of their area?
Your first question is VAT exclusive. Your second question, VAT exclusive. Your second question, yes.
With respect to the advance payment bonds and your response earlier that no mobilization or advance payment will be given to contractors, how will a small contractor reasonably be expected to carry payroll and other financing costs for the anticipated period of time until he reaches a milestone and then the 60 or 90 or 5.6 months, as he said, that he has to wait for payment from HDC. Another question, that $500,000 per unit, is that just the builder's cost or are there preliminary costs like management for the various contractors included in that?
Your last question first, the $500,000 includes all costs.
So before you sit, would you mind repeating your second question?
The time that a contractor has to carry costs.
Okay, so let's just talk about the affordability of the contractor. You remember we put up there some categories. So let's assume you can only demonstrate that you operate in the grouping of 0 to 500,000. We could potentially assign to you, after the procurement process, a 2-bedroom unit, for instance, that costs $250,000, $300,000. The 10% that you'd have to put on, I'm saying 10% based on, we are saying 10% for the foundation would be the first payment, would be $25,000 to $30,000 on average. We have the view that you, as an individual, can approach a financial institution under this program with a contract in your hand that says, I will build a 2-bedroom house for the HDC at $300,000, and they will be able to advance you, I am hoping, at least the 10%.
While I understand that, that's not really the question. The question is, how can a small contractor be expected to carry, for example, in the instance where they go and approach an institution for a loan, they will still have to carry financing costs, not only up to the time where they complete the milestone, but they also up to the time when they receive payment from HDC. And then you have to, I mean...
So the concern is, when will HDC pay? Well, I mentioned it before.
That's part of it, because,
Okay.
you know, HDC has a historically bad track record of payment.
Don't say it like that. As I mentioned before, this program is going to be funded by the Ministry of Finance. The funding will be available, and payments, I'm saying, will be made no more than 28 days after submitting your certificate for payment.
So a question from the other floor, will the HDC be willing to give documents to the contractors so that they could go to the bank to get a loan?
what the agency is proposing, when you become pre-qualified, we will notify you. If at that notification stage, you require a letter from the agency to take to the bank to say that you have pre-qualified in this program, we'll be more than willing and happy to provide you with that information.
Yes, good evening. Just two quick questions. One, you mentioned a calculation for the foundations for the house being roughly 20% of the cost. I think you mentioned between 10 and 20%, so we would get financing based on what we could achieve at foundation level. Given that many of these sites would be dispersed across the country, and you have different soils, and therefore, I suppose, different foundations to construct, what is your design for the foundation, and what happens if you're assigned a house and the foundations need to be more involved than anticipated? So would the increased cost for the foundations be taken into account when you're calculating the payment or the first payment for the contractor? And secondly, we have been in situations with not only HDC, but with other ministries who have prepared payments and sent to the Ministry of Finance for payments. And that's the sticking point. The Ministry of Finance saying that they have not heard anything from Ministry of Finance, or they have not gotten payments from Ministry of Finance. So even though you're saying that the money is with Ministry of Finance, that sometimes is not of much comfort. What would be comforting for us is if HDC had the $750 million for the 1,500 houses, then we can hold you accountable contractually. And if that doesn't happen, then we're going to face the same situations that many of us face now. When we go to these institutions or special purpose companies, they say, well, we submitted your documentation for payment to Ministry of Finance, but we have not heard anything from it. And sometimes that could be years. How are you going to address that specific thing?
Let me deal with your first question with respect to the foundation. And I also mentioned that the agency will be providing 4 construction drawings. It will take into consideration the foundation based on the area of the country or the soil type. So that will be factored in. And the price of the unit will take that into consideration. So it will still more than likely be the 20%, but will be 20% based on the price for the house, based on the soil conditions. With respect to the payment, I hear you. I've seen and heard of those instances. What we have been given is a commitment from the Ministry of Finance that the funding will be provided for this program. This is a very important program for the country.
Good evening to all. I just want clarity on one thing. We have a cap for the price of the house. Are we going, as contractors, are we going to bid on the prices in respect that another contractor could do the job lower than another contractor, and that will generally go to that person?
This is exactly why we said we are providing indicative pricing. We know the house, we know the design. You probably have the bills for this 10 times over. You know exactly what it's going to cost.
If the houses allotted to build are merely 5 or 10, how can contractors, small and medium contractors, be expected to make a reasonable profit off the jobs?
I forgot to mention, this is not a get-rich-quick program. This is to provide affordable housing and to provide small and medium contractors with an opportunity to build some capacity, generate some income for themselves, pay some workers, and be fairly comfortable. This is not a get-rich-quick program. You will not make super profits. If you are here thinking that this program will get you rich, I could say, it was nice, have a good evening. This is not a get-rich program. You'll make a decent profit. Let me share something with you. It's a dangerous share. At the HDC, listen good, we are now building houses. This is current, this is not based on this program. We are now building houses at 50% of what we were paying a few years ago. Let me put that in perspective. We are now building houses at 50% of what we were paying. And let me put some numbers to it. A few years ago, we were paying $1,200 a square foot to build a house. Today, we're about $600 a square foot that we are paying to construct a house. The days of the super rich or get rich off of the HDC and other housing programs where you're trying to build houses for low-income earners are gone. That will not happen. That will no longer happen. There are other programs and projects where you could potentially make some more profit, not in this program.
Good evening once again. You identified that at the point of pre-qualification, the HDC would be happy to give the contractor a letter to take to the institution, but the reality is that the institution won't necessarily recognize that letter per se because that is not exactly a contract. And I've had it with a different organization, state enterprise. They gave a letter, all right, and nothing was the same in from the financial institution perspective. When I got the contract, that is when they was willing to engage me in terms of providing financing for the project. The annex question to that would be, what would be the duration between award and start of the project? So what window we would have to actually approach an institution with an actual instrument in terms of a contract?
This is an aggressive program. We want the time between selection, award, and start. We are saying 2 weeks. Listen, the land is there. The size that we are proposing, or infrastructure is already in place. For the most part, in the lands that we're talking about, the land is flat. There's very little work that you have to do in terms of developing the land. This is an aggressive program. The people out there who require housing.
Good afternoon. My question is, I agree that the house will be built on valuation. And I am looking at the cost of the house is good, but there are some factors that you have to look at. Is the ground, who will prepare the ground? When you're building a house now, you must have prepared for inset, which are called the pest control. Is that included in the price?
That is included in price, and it is your responsibility.
Good, right. The other thing is, any of these units will be elevated?
We will consider some elevated units based on the where the land is located and so on.
Right. The reason for that is that when we go into elevated houses, $500,000 will not build a 3-bedroom house. So I mean to say, I am glad for the opportunity to be here, but it's something that I was in. And we are looking at time of change. And I agree with you that the contractor must start somewhere, because when you get to start up with the foundation, you have the other stage. And the other stage is going to put you in some pressure because you have now come out your pocket with the floor, with the ground floor. You are now going to block up and you are waiting for monies. And one of the greatest part of it is that if you are allotted, let's say, 5 houses, what are the duration time that you are looking forward to hand over these units? Thank you.
We really would like you to complete a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 913 square foot house in 3 months. We understand that you may have some challenges, and we're prepared to go to 4 months. But really, beyond that, for a very basic house like this, we don't see you going beyond 4 months, really.
Hello, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, in consideration the payments and whether it might be contracts, is the contracts definitely going to be tied on to the location where we doing the initial project itself? For instance, if we build in on this location, does the contract also ties the land until we get paid? More or less, the land is going to be tied into the contract. For instance, it might probably be building a 2-story, or whether it might be a flat 3-bedroom. Most of we would say the contracts would definitely be labor, materials, and payments, right? But then definitely, if we were to be building on a project or on a piece of land, and for instance, we get fired, then we only have a contract. We only have records. We don't have any records of any right. For instance, the lands at this locations, east-west bounded by so-and-so, lot number so-and-so, would definitely be tied into the contract, stating that until payments are made or until job is executed properly, that then the full...
Let me help you out, let me help.
Thank you.
The land remains the property of HDC until transferred to the homeowner. The land will not be put into your program for you to take to the bank as an asset. That will not happen. Let's talk about, because valid, real concern.
It's kind of...
Your exposure is limited. Remember, here's what we said. You will have an initial outlay to, let's say, put down the foundation. That's the extent of your exposure. Because once it is satisfactorily done and you have the necessary sign-off from us saying that it was done to specs, you will be paid. So you now have money to go to the next stage. If you didn't perform well, you didn't use the right size of steel, the right strength of concrete, and so on, and you did the wrong thing, you will be exposed because we will not pay you.
Understand. In the event of the correct thing is being done and no payments, I had several, not directly with AGC, but with contractors from AGC and a couple other companies, whereas execution of jobs up to 15, 20, 30, 40,000 completed and still no payments, gunfight, all kind of thing, police lock up me for no reason. So I know broken, my wife vexed, she leave me, go my father. Yeah. She father have food. I don't have none.
We are saying that this program will be funded.
And payments could be made in measurements as well, or is it strictly in phases, whereas when the foundation...
No, not measured works. Milestones.
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 Complete full projects.
Milestones.
Thanks. Material and, well, yes,
milestones.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
We'll just take this last question as the gentleman was at the mic already. So, sir, if you could just ask the question quickly, and yours will be the last question.
Well, I feel very lucky here. Well, let me just cheer up everybody. I find the room getting kind of a little tense. But I feel this event is the first time AGC figure out a way to take $500 from all the contractors. Okay, let me get to the question now. Okay, let me just get to the question quick. I think it's an important question. So, yeah, well, I know this is a new initiative. Now, I know you all don't formulate the design in terms of the application process, the pre-qualification and all that based on the small contractor. But you see, since it's a new initiative, you are now hearing from small contractors. So my question is, would you take any initiative or ideas that the small contractors give today? Because I know you don't set out your line, like the path you are taking. Would you take some new form of initiative? Because why getting the feeling from the contractors, the small contractors here, is that the budget is a place where they would reach a milestone and they are looking for money to go to the next milestone. Would there be a buffer, or do you have, like, some of them mentioned the financial state, like a letter the HDC could give that they could go to the financial institution. Could this be taken in consideration for the small contractor, and would you implement it in your way forward now from today?
We have already said yes to that.
Okay.
And let me address a couple of things. We are not here pretending to have all the answers or to know all the solutions. Right? If we get a suggestion that we think can improve the process, definitely.
Well, I think I believe some of the contractors mentioned it about getting a statement, something that they could go, like if they reach a milestone. Yeah.
No, let me deal with the $500. There's a lot that goes into developing a program and having everything ready, and it costs. So we have to recover it somehow. Therein lies the $500. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out.
Ladies and gentlemen, could we allow our chairman to just wrap up the evening's proceedings, please? And could we thank Mr. Brent Lyons for taking the question?
Thank you for coming out here in such large numbers this evening. What I want to say is that I heard some doubt, but I have no doubt. We have done this before under my stewardship, and it was a success. All I ask is that you trust the process, work with us. We are prepared to work with you. And as the MD said, we are about providing housing solutions in an affordable manner. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme, but I can assure you that you can make a decent profit if you put the effort and some of the management in it. We are open to suggestions. We are here to help. We have done it in the past, as I said, where a number of small contractors did make a reasonable profit, and some of them went on to become mega contractors. I don't want to get into name calling, but I know at least 2 contractors who out of the last infill program emerged as beyond medium-sized contractors. This is a bold initiative supported by the Minister of Finance and endorsed by the Honorable Minister of Housing and Urban Development. I have no doubt with the efforts of the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Housing, the advisor, Mrs. Miros and Charles, and the staff and management at HDC, that this initiative will be a win-win for all concerned. So once again, thank you very much for coming out tonight. I understand there are some light refreshments, but we never anticipated this turnout. And this turnout demonstrates the confidence that you have in what we are embarking on. It is a new journey in an exciting 2020. Thank you very much.